Let's talk about something that's in the news pretty much every single day and affects, well, almost everything we buy, sell, and eat: global trade. It's this huge world filled with big promises of making everyone richer, but it's also packed with fierce arguments over what's actually fair. It really is a clash of ideas.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to look at the big, shiny promise of free trade. Then, we'll see how that idea gets messy in a real-world fight over steel. After that, we'll explore a totally different angle called fair trade. And finally, we'll tie it all together to understand the tough choices at the heart of it all.
So let's kick things off with the big idea that has really shaped our global economy for decades now: the promise of free trade. This powerful vision for a world without any barriers.
And this quote from Ranjit Rao, a trade minister, just nails it. This is the core belief, right? It's that classic "a rising tide lifts all boats" idea. If every country can sell what they're good at making to anyone, anywhere, without interference, well, the thinking is that creates a wave of prosperity that benefits everyone.
So what's standing in the way of this vision? Well, the first major hurdle is something called a tariff. The easiest way to think about it is like an entry fee or a tax at the border. It's designed to make imported stuff more expensive, which, of course, gives the locally made products a bit of a leg up. And then there's another barrier, one that's even more direct: a quota. Now, this isn't a tax, it's a hard stop. A country can literally just say, nope, we're only letting in, say, 10,000 foreign cars this year. That's it. It's a way to directly choke off the supply from other countries. So who's supposed to police all of this? Well, the main referee in this whole global game is the World Trade Organization, the WTO. Its entire reason for being is to get countries in a room to negotiate, to lower these barriers, to smooth out the rules, and, this is a big one, to settle fights when one country accuses another of cheating the system. Okay, but that clean, idealistic vision of free trade, it gets really complicated really fast when actual industries and real people's jobs are on the line. And there is no better example of this than the global battle over steel. So, on one side of this fight, you've got John Newman. He runs a steel company in an industrialized country, let's call it Nordland. His problem is pretty straightforward. His costs are higher, he's got higher wages, more regulations, and he just can't compete on price. So what's his solution? He's asking his government to step in and put tariffs on imported steel to try and level the playing field. But then, on the other side of the world, you've got Antonio Silva. He's a steel CEO in an industrializing nation we'll call Sudonia. And from his perspective, what John Newman is asking for isn't fair at all. He sees it as just protectionism, plain and simple, a way to unfairly block him from competing in the open market. Now, a key accusation that gets thrown around in these fights is dumping. This is what John Newman says is happening. He's claiming that foreign companies are selling steel in his country for less than it even costs them to make it. It's seen as this predatory move to drive local companies like his completely out of business.
And right there, that's the whole conflict in a nutshell. What John Newman calls protection for his workers and his industry, Antonio Silva calls protectionism, a government rigging the game to shield the local industry from genuine global competition. One person's shield is another's wall.
So this is the crucial point, right? The exact same policy, a tariff, is seen in two completely opposite ways. To John Newman, it's a vital shield. It's protecting his workers' jobs from what he sees as unfair attacks. But to Antonio Silva, that exact same tariff is an unfair wall that's blocking him from being able to compete. So far, we've really been talking about big companies and entire countries, but what if there's another way to look at all of this? What if we shift the focus away from corporate profits and national economies to the actual human beings who are producing the goods? And that brings us to a really powerful alternative: fair trade. This whole movement is really driven by consumers, people like Claire Longden. When she's at the grocery store, she's not thinking about steel tariffs. She's looking for things like the fair trade mark on her coffee or chocolate. And why? Because it's a signal, a guarantee that the farmers who actually grew that product were paid a decent, stable price for their hard work.
Now, to really get why that matters, you have to understand the risk of something called a glut. This is what happens when, say, a whole bunch of countries have a massive coffee harvest all at once. Suddenly, there's this huge surplus flooding the market, and the price can just fall through the floor. It can drop so low that farmers literally can't even cover their costs, let alone feed their families.
And this is the exact problem that fair trade is designed to solve. It tries to separate a farmer's income from that wild, unpredictable, and sometimes catastrophic market price. Instead, it provides a fair price, a guaranteed minimum that works like a safety net, making sure that producers can actually earn a sustainable living from what they grow. So, we've looked at the world through three very different sets of eyes: the wide-open vision of free trade, the defensive crouch of protectionism, and the people-first focus of fair trade. Let's put them all side by side and really see what the trade-offs are.
You know, when you lay it all out like this, a really interesting pattern starts to pop out. Just look at the goal of each one. Free trade has this massive, global ambition: prosperity for all. Protectionism narrows that focus way down to protecting our industries right here at home. And then fair trade zooms in even closer, to the well-being of the single farmer or worker. And the tools they use, from the global WTO to a national tariff to a little label on a bag of coffee, they perfectly mirror that shift in scale.
So at the end of the day, these huge global debates aren't just for economists in fancy offices. They play out every single time we go to a store and decide what to buy. So the final question really is for you. When you're shopping, what's really driving your choice? Is it the promise of lower prices that comes from global competition? Is it protecting local jobs? Or is it making sure the person who made that thing got a fair shake? That's the trade-off at the very heart of our modern world.